I was caught off guard. Morning, Saints. You know, when I was getting ready for the series, I thought, wouldn't it be neat if God would provide some kind of sign to let the congregation know that this really is what he wants them to hear. And I don't know if it's coincidence or not, but have you noticed that on the day we are starting the 10 Commandments, the J's are 10 straight wins. And, you know, if you think about it, blue J's, BJ, Bible, Jews, I don't know, is that coincidence? Probably it is, I know. Well, we are, as I said, starting a new series. When I was younger, there used to be a show that was on air called This Is the Law. How many are you old like me? Okay, how many remember the show but aren't old like me? Okay, well, let me tell you about this show, because apparently it wasn't that popular. It was a show in which there would be a panel of famous people, for Canadian standards, and they would watch an enactment, often a little bit funny, emphasis on little bit, and then the person acting would break a law. He'd get arrested by the end of the clip, and then they had to guess what this law that he broke was. It's kind of hard to explain, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to show you a clip, and at the end of it, I'm going to ask you, what is the law that was broken? So let's play this.
In our first film tonight, the lawbreaker looks around for some honest employment and finds himself a job in High Prairie, Alberta as a dairy person.
So obvious, wasn't it? Yeah. All right, tell me, what was the law that was broken? Let's have some guesses. Yeah, go ahead. Showering in public. No, that's wrong. You must wash your hands immediately before you milk a cow is wrong. Go ahead. Assaulting an officer. No. I'm not even going to ask. A pitchfork. No.
You're not allowed to put manure outside the barn.
That is absolutely right. In High Prairie, Alberta, it is against the law, and manure must be kept in the barn. You saw the episode, didn't you? Yeah. You know, there's all kinds of strange laws that I came across. In one of the penal codes for the California State Vehicle Act, it says it is a misdemeanor to shoot at any kind of game, bird, or mammal, except a whale, from an automobile or an airplane. How about this one? This is a city ordinance in Alderson, West Virginia. It states, no lions shall be allowed to run wild on the streets of the city. I'd like to see them ticket the lion that does it. And then in Kansas, there's a law that says when two trains approach each other at a crossing, they shall both come to a full stop, and neither shall start up until the other has gone. Now, we may not like the law, but we can't stand laws that just don't make sense. The laws that are outdated or irrelevant to society. One person has calculated that humanity has created 32,647,389 laws. And then he added, but has not yet improved on the 10 Commandments. They have been foundational to governing societies throughout the Western world. And part of their brilliance is their brevity, their conciseness. There's only 297 words, and yet one of the American federal directives to regulate the price of cabbage contains 26,911 words, just for cabbage. But there are those in our culture who today would question the wisdom of the 10 Commandments. They would characterize them as being a bunch of rules told by an angry deity that is insecure and jealous and is out to send us to hell if we don't keep them. And it's evidence that God, if he exists, is really unreasonable. I have here the manual for our photocopier. It's a very smart photocopier, but I still don't think it's as smart as most humans. But in this thick book are all kinds of commands, such as do not touch the photoconductive drum. Do not insert wedges or other items into the switch slots. Do not look directly at the light source, because doing so may damage your eyes. Now, what if I want to do those things? I mean, who does a sharp photocopier think they are to tell me what I can and cannot do? And how dare they threaten me with blinding my eyes if I don't obey them? Now, you would think I'm an idiot for thinking that. And you'd probably be right. This is how the photocopier works best. The laws are there to keep things running smoothly and safely. The late Cecil B. DeMille, who was the famous producer who produced the 10 Commandments movie with Charlton Heston, said, our modern world would define God as a religious complex, and laughed at the 10 Commandments as old-fashioned. Then through the laughter came the shattering thunder of the World War. And now a blood-drenched, bitter world, no longer laughing, cries for a way out. There is but one way out. It existed long before it was engraved upon tablets of stone. It will exist when stone has crumbled. The 10 Commandments are not rules to obey as a personal favor to God. They are the fundamental principles without which men cannot live together. They are not laws, they are the law. His point is that the 10 Commandments are not given in order to restrict us and make us miserable. They simply reveal how humanity, as God created them, works best. They're given so that we might know how we are designed in order to optimize the life that he gives us. You see, the 10 Commandments are not given for God's benefit. They're given for ours, to reveal how life works best. Furthermore, the commandments not only reveal how we're made to live, it also reveals the nature and character of God himself. So in other words, by knowing the 10 Commandments better, we come to understand God better. So what I'd like to do over the next 10 weeks of summer is consider each of the 10 Commandments, and my hope is that you'll understand them not as restrictive, but as freeing. And that by obeying them, you may come to know not only how life can work better for you, but also you can know better the God who has given you that gift of life. So let's begin by looking at the text. Now, there's two places where the 10 Commandments are recorded. Deuteronomy chapter 5 and Exodus chapter 20. Now, this is really cool. Deuteronomy is the 5th chapter, or the 5th book of the Bible, and in the 5th chapter you have the 10 Commandments. An easy little mnemonic there for you to remember. I can tell you're thrilled. Okay, and then Exodus 20, okay, is the 2nd book, and you divide 20 by 2. All right, okay. So if anybody asks you where they are now, I expect you to know. That's all I'm saying. All right, so we're going to follow Exodus chapter 20 for this series, and let's see what it says. And God spoke all these words. I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery. You shall have no other God before me. The line, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of Egypt, out of the land of slavery, it serves as an introduction for the full 10 Commandments. It sets the context in which the commandments are given. The God who is giving these laws is the one who heard their cry of oppression when they were slaves. He's the one who stood up against the global power at that time, which was Egypt, and using only one man, he demonstrated his unprecedented power by confronting the myriad of Egyptian gods. This is the God who rescued and freed and keeps them and provides for them. In other words, the laws are given by one who is looking out for your best interest. So often in life, we can betray our friends by making character judgments based on our interpretation of evidence. Rather than question our interpretation and interrogate the evidence in light of what we know about the person, we'll often question the person themselves. Just like a child would say that you don't love me because we don't allow them to have candy right before going to bed. They can't imagine how, if you love them, you wouldn't allow them to have candy. And so they question the character of the parent, the love of the parent. And so often, when we look at the 10 Commandments, instead of trying to understand them in light of God's character, we question God's character in light of how we've interpreted the commands. So what I'm suggesting is, if at first you don't understand the wisdom of the laws of God themselves in order to trust them, trust instead the character of the one who's given them, the one who's already demonstrated his care and concern for you, the one who watches over you and loves you and protects you and keeps you. Now, in this line, there's also 2 subtleties that our English translations don't make apparent as they translate from the Hebrew. The word that's translated Lord, when it's typed in all capitals like that in the NIV, New International Version, that's their way of showing it's a translation of the word Yahweh, which is a sacred name of God. Literally, the text reads, I am Yahweh, your God. You see, the God who is speaking is not a generic concept. We are dealing with a personality, a being who has a name and has revealed his name because he longs to be in a relationship. Furthermore, when he says, I am the Lord, your God, he's not using the plural form of the word your as if he's speaking to a group, like all of Israel. He's actually speaking to individuals. It's the singular form. And so he's saying that he's wanting a relationship with you as an individual. And what this means is that the commands are not the record of an angry, ranting deity demanding that we respect him. It is the honest, tender communication of truth between one person who loves another person. You see, it's in the nature of the one speaking that helps us determine the tone of what is being said. There's a world of difference between a kidnapper holding a person and saying, you are mine on the basis of power, and a lover holding a person saying, you are mine on the basis of love. The one speaking to us loves us. And the tone of these commands is one of tender compassion, as the one who made us and redeems us now reveals how he has designed us and how our lives run best under his instruction. The command, you shall have no other God before me, addresses now the issue of priority in people's lives. All of us are confronted and challenged with priorities each and every day, and what we put ahead of other things. When we face conflicting priorities, we have to determine which one is going to trump the other. Will I cancel my meeting in order to be home for my child's birthday? Which priority gets first dibs of my time? Well, I allow my wife to change the channel from Game 7 of the Stanley Cup playoffs in order to watch a rerun of a romantic movie. Or will I insist on having my way? Which is my highest priority, her pleasure or mine? That was a rhetorical question, okay? It was not a... You see, ultimately, there can only be one top priority. And before that, everything else has to bow. Everything else has to submit. To change the metaphor a bit, there can only be one center to a person's life. One thing around which their life is going to revolve. And what this first command is saying is put God at the center. Arrange your life so that everything revolves around him. And the reason for this is because your life, what your life revolves around, is going to shape your values. And the values you hold will shape your lifestyle that you choose. You see, the first command is designed to take the angst out of our decision making. See, when we've determined that nothing will compete with God for the center of our lives, when a conflict comes, we've already predetermined who's going to win. God's going to have his way. He's going to have a say. When there is an issue in any part of your life, finances, relationship, leisure, health, find out what God says. Arrange those parts of your life around God at the center, around his wisdom. That is how our lives were made to be. And when that center is replaced by something that should be on the fringe, life begins to wobble. When we allow our lives to revolve around what makes us feel good, when it revolves around money, when it revolves around our children, when it revolves around our jobs, whenever anything other than God is at the center, you can be sure that your life will not be as it was designed to be. Have you ever buttoned up your shirt and you start with the wrong button? Every time? Yeah, okay. When you get the first thing wrong, every subsequent button is thrown off. See, here's the principle. You organize around what you prioritize. And when any other person or thing is given priority as the organizing center of your life, it will be insufficient to carry you through life. Consider the person who makes money their top priority. Soon, they are consumed with making money, and it damages their relationships, it damages their health, their joy is gone because money doesn't care about them. And what's directing their life has no interest in them. We see the same reality for people who have placed substances at the center of their life. Their whole life revolves around getting another drink or getting another fix. And it destroys everyone that they come in contact with. That's why some say, I'm not going to trust in anyone else to look after me. I'm going to put my needs first. After all, if I'm not taking care of me, no one else is going to. If I don't look after my interests, then no one's going to. There's a few problems with this, though. With making yourselves the center of your own lives, first it assumes that you know what's best for you. And yet, how can you see what decisions you make today will affect your future? It also assumes that you know what is wisest, what is the best course of action. What you really need is someone who's all-wise, who's all-knowing, someone who loves you without condition, to whom you can submit your decisions to. You know, to be honest, most people are experts in self-deception. And for the most part, people are convinced that painful, uncomfortable situations is not in their best interest, so they avoid them. That's why even when people are sick, just a little basic survey, how many here know someone that when they're sick, they will resist going to the doctor even though it's best for them? Okay? Why is that? It's because it's uncomfortable to go to the doctor. It's because the potential embarrassment if I'm not really, really, really sick. And they'll only go on the insistence of somebody who forces them because they really don't know what's best for them in that situation. And furthermore, a society where everyone prioritizes their life around themselves would ultimately be a society that wasn't good for anybody. According to a comprehensive study done by 5 psychologists, today's college students are more narcissistic and self-centered than their predecessors. From 1982 to 2006, 16,475 college students completed an evaluation called the Narcissistic Personality Inventory. The standard inventory asks for rating responses to such statements as, if I ruled the world, it would be a better place. I think I'm a special person, and I can live my life the way I want to. The nationwide results are quite telling. This is what they say. We need to stop endlessly repeating "you're special" and having children repeat it back, said the study's lead author, Professor Jean Twenge of San Diego State University. Kids are self-centered enough already. The study asserts narcissists are more likely to have romantic relationships that are short-lived, at risk of infidelity, lack emotional warmth, and to exhibit game-playing dishonesty and over-controlling and violent behaviors. The researchers traced the phenomenon back to the self-esteem movement that emerged in the 1980s, and they contest the effort to build self-confidence has gone too far. As an example, Twenge cites the lyrics of a song commonly sung to the tune of Farrah Jaka in preschool, and it goes, I am special, look at me, look at me. Current technology fuels the increase of narcissism. By its very name, MySpace encourage attention-seeking, as does YouTube. You hear what's being said, don't you? When we place self at the center of our lives, we find all kinds of things in turmoil. When people made their highest good what they thought was good for them, it caused havoc in relationships. So let me ask you, friends, what is your life currently organized around? What is at the center? Is God the priority? Has he been made first? I ask this not to make you feel guilty, not because God's going to get you if it's not him, but rather because it's best for you. You were designed to have God at the center. When your life centers around the one who is all-wise and all-powerful and all-loving and all-knowing and all-merciful, friends, when your life centers on that, life is good. So I would like to propose a quick assessment that I hope you'll find helpful in determining what is first in your life. And I'd like to use the word first as an acronym in helping you to recognize what priority may have usurped the place that maybe God should be having. F stands for focus. Where do you find your thoughts going? Whose approval do you most often try and achieve? What do you find yourself thinking about when you're thinking about nothing? What are the things you're watching and listening to? Think about your self-talk. Those conversations you have to yourself in your head, what does it tell you about where your focus is? I stands for income. Where are you spending your money? Jesus says, where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. If you want to see where your heart centers around, look where your money goes. Not just the bills that you feel you have to pay. Where do you go with your discretionary funds? R is for relationships. Who are the people that have the most influence in your life? Is it the personalities of primetime television? Are you with a company of people that you want your life to emulate? Who are you trying to impress? And who could you care less what they think? S stands for spiritual food. What do you use as food for your soul? When you're just spent, where do you go to refuel? Where are you receiving strength to live? Are you turning to the pages of the Bible or to prayer, or is it YouTube? When you find some thought that you're dwelling on, something that just keeps going on, whether it's a grumbling or a song or some conversation you have with somebody that just won't go away, the Bible calls that meditating. What are you meditating on? And is that source wholesome? And finally, T stands for time. Time is probably our most precious commodity. On who or what do you give it to? Do you spend your time investing in your relationship with God each day? Or do you waste your time? And if you waste it, on what? Friends, I guess the question is, what is your center? Your life will revolve around your highest priority. The first command is simply to place God first, to have no other God before him. Any questions on the first command or the series? Fairly simple to understand, a little bit harder to keep. Let's pray. Father, we want to thank you that you reveal to us how our life works best. Help us to not question the love which prompted you to tell us. When we don't understand, help us to obey anyway so that we might come to know your wisdom, to come to know you, and to find what life is meant to be lived like under your rule and leadership. Help us to understand that when you want us for yourself, it's because you love us. It's meant to set us free and not to restrict us. Help us over the course of these 10 weeks as we study these 10 commands, that we may take them to heart and that we might be changed, become more the people we were meant to be as we live our lives under your control. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Let's stand together. No, there is nothing and no one in this life who can give us salvation but Jesus in our hearts. We'll just wait for Chris to adjust his mic here. Jesus is Jesus is our one and only Savior. Give him praise. We love him. In every moment of our lives, he's there. In the quiet, in the stillness, I know that you are God. In the secret of your presence, I know there I am restored. When you call, I won't refuse. Each new day again I'll choose. There is no one else for me, none but Jesus, crucified to set me free. Now I long live to bring him praise. In the chaos and confusion, I know you're sovereign still. In the moment of my weakness, you give me grace to do your will. When you call, I won't delay. This my song through all my days. There is no one else but you, none but Jesus, crucified to set me free. Now I live to bring him praise. There is no one else for me, none but Jesus, crucified to set me free. Now I live to bring him praise. All my delight is in you, Lord. All of my hope, all of my strength. All my delight is in you, Lord, forevermore. All my delight is in you, Lord. All of my hope, all of my strength. All my delight is in you, Lord, forevermore. There is no one else for me, crucified to set me free. Now I live to bring him praise. There is no one else for me, none but Jesus, crucified to set me free. Now I live to bring him praise. Father, we give you praise and thanks. We give you our lives, oh God. Help us to live out your commandments to us, God, as a Father who loves us. In Jesus' name. I want to hear you say the words to me, well done.
not, but this summer has been one of my busiest for pre-marriage classes. I've had lots of that going on. One of the things I talk to couples getting married is about communication, because there is this assumption that the other person should know what they want, and they like it when the other person can anticipate their needs, but because they've seen it probably in their parents, and so they just figure that the person I'm marrying should know what I want. Here's the problem: is they don't tell them. And that can often cause conflict. It's like, well, how could you be so insensitive not to know I want Dairy Queen today? You never told me you wanted Dairy Queen today. Well, you should have known. You see?
Yeah, you should have.
Now, over time, couples begin to anticipate what the other wants. And so you just know. And that's when life gets better. But at the beginning, there's got to be lots of communication. And to be honest with the person you're with, telling what you want, to be assertive in that way without being demanding. To assert what you want, what you need in the relationship, what would give you joy. So God enters into a relationship with us. And he loves us. And he figures that we want to love him too. So he tells us what he wants. I want to be first. I want you to put me first. Not only will it be good for me, because I love you so much, and to see you putting me first would really be something that I would enjoy. It will also be good for you because I made you to put me first. And when I am the organizing center of your life, life is so much better because you have a God who loves you unconditionally, who is all-knowing and all-wise and all-powerful and all-merciful. And when he's at the center, friends, life is good. This week, look at your life and move it closer and closer to Christ being at the center. Go in the grace and the peace of God.